Hey, this is Wolf, and welcome again to an Armoury-Terrain project. Today I'm accepting a maker challenge from the Propsmith, and the challenge is to build a sword. So the first thing I do is find a core suitable for my weapon, and this is a fiberglass tent pole from a dome tent. Once I have the weapon's core, I need to make up a template to make my weapon. So out of thin cardboard, I have here the blade and the handle, and you'll notice that I've only drawn half of the sword in. That's because it's going to be symmetrical. So once I've drawn it on the foam, I flip it over and get the other side. Speaking of foam, I'm using for this build some yoga matting that I bought from BCF for the grand cost of $10. I'm also using some EVA floor mats, just a standard jigsaw floor mat. Okay, now this video is going to be a little bit jumpy as I stop to do the process and then start recording again, but no one really wants to see me glue stuff down and sand things, surely. So the way it works is the core goes in the center one. We then have a layer of floor mat foam either side, and then another layer of the camping mat on the blade. Once this is glued down and dried, I'll be hitting it with the Dremel, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. Hey, we're back making the sword, and I've been using ye old favourite of sword makers from time immemorial, contact adhesive, to stick my pieces together. Now when you're opening a can, please don't use a screwdriver or a knife or whatever. Go down to your hardware shop and buy yourself one of these. It's a key. It goes into the can and pries it open without damaging a blade. It also opens bottles, which is handy when you want to drink out here. So anyway, the sword is at this stage. The core is 75 mils in from the end of the tip, and I've discovered that the handle is slightly too wide for my hand, so I'm going to have to reduce it. Now, because of the way foam stretches and bends, no matter how carefully you've cut the pieces out, they're always going to be just slightly off. This is where the Dremel comes in to smooth things up, and as soon as this glue's set properly, I'll be attacking it with my Dremel. I'll be back after dremeling to show how it looks. Okay, so after making more blue dust than I really wanted, I've put an edge on this blade. I've made sure to keep it at least one thickness of foam wide. I've also reinforced the end with some electrical tape, which also gave me a guide of how far in to cut. This will stop the tip bending as much and reduce the likelihood of it tearing through. Now on the handle, I've added some details with craft foam and a ring around it as well to make a better wheel shaped handle, and wheel shaped pommel, that is, guys. And the handle I've shaped with some electrical tape to bring out all the curves that I wanted. At this point in time you might be going, Wolf, you've just made a boffer sword, big deal, whatever. But stay tuned to this next step and you'll see where it differs just a bit. Okay, so to stop it just being a boffer sword, I've used my contact adhesive and glued a layer of thin material over it, being very careful not to get too many creases, especially on the blade. What I've then done is mixed up some silver and just a tad of blue to make a colour I like for the blade. Whenever you're mixing latex, always, and I mean always, mix the colour of the paint you want first, because when you get the latex, which you always need to shake before you open, and add it to your paint, it will make it much lighter. And when it dries, it'll dry back to that colour, because this latex, being a brush on latex, is just a little bit brownish side of clear when it dries. So I'm using 2.5 spoons of latex on this sword, along with the paint. The ammonia smell of latex is horrible. That whole cat piss smell, it's nasty. But yeah, all I'm using here is, if the camera will focus, some brush on latex from Barnes. So now that I have it all in my cup, I stir it until it's nicely mixed, and then I just paint it onto the material and watch it soak on in and form a nice skin to protect the sword. I'll get back to you once I've got some paint on this. 3, 2, 1. Here we are with what I'm going to call my finished sword for this competition. Total build time, including drying, is 3.5 hours. And while this sword isn't pretty enough to use in a movie and doesn't look like a foam injected sword, it's plenty good enough to use in a game of LARP. I've given the handle a leather wrap and a couple of jewels because, you know, sparkly stuff is good. Also, perhaps it's one of these swords where you can turn this way and banish the undead or similar. Who knows? So anyway, LARPgasm and Propsmith. This is my sword for the project finished, and as I said, 3.5 hours build time and total cost of materials about $20. So I'd love to see what you guys are going to submit as your entries, and let's find something interesting to do as next month's project. Okay, this is Wolf from Armoury-Terrain saying, go out and build something.